It begins not with spectacle, but with a voice, measured, deliberate, carrying the quiet gravity of history. A son stepping into a role shaped by a mother whose shadow still lingers over every corridor of power. King Charles stood before the world aware that this moment, his moment, had been decades in the making. Yet behind the ceremony, behind the tradition, there was something else, an unmistakable sense that time was no longer an ally. The image presented to the public was one of continuity, of duty fulfilled without hesitation. But the truth, whispered in corridors and spoken more freely among those closest to the throne, tells a different story. A monarch not easing into his reign, but straining beneath it. A man who waited a lifetime for the crown, now confronting the possibility that he may not hold it for long. There is a quiet tension in that reality, not dramatic, not sudden, but persistent. It lingers in every appearance, every carefully managed engagement, every moment where composure must conceal exhaustion. The question is no longer abstract, no longer distant. It has become immediate, pressing, unavoidable. And as that question grows louder, so too does the sense that history may be preparing to turn once again. Illness has a way of reshaping even the most immovable institutions. When King Charles was diagnosed, the announcement was controlled, measured, respectful of privacy. Yet the implications were impossible to contain. The monarchy, built on stability, suddenly found itself adapting in real time. What was once a full calendar became a reduced schedule. What was once endurance became careful management. And now, even those adjustments appear insufficient. Those who observe closely, those who understand the subtle language of posture, expression, and presence, have begun to notice what cannot be formally acknowledged: fatigue that lingers too long, movements that carry hesitation, a visible weight that is not ceremonial but physical. There is something deeply human in this, a lifetime of discipline meeting the limits of the body, a refusal to yield, even when yielding might be the wiser path. It is said that he continues forward out of duty, out of principle, out of a belief that the role demands persistence above all else. But institutions do not run on willpower alone. They respond to reality, and reality, in this moment, is quietly reshaping the future of the crown. If health were the only concern, the path forward might be clearer. But history rarely unfolds with such simplicity. Alongside the private struggle of a king stands a public complication, one that threatens not just individuals, but the credibility of the institution itself. Old controversies have a way of returning, not as echoes, but as renewed questions. Allegations, investigations, and associations long thought contained now resurface with sharper edges. They do not exist in isolation. They intertwine with perception, with trust, with the fragile balance that sustains public confidence. Within the palace, there is an awareness that perception can be as powerful as truth, that even the suggestion of complicity, of silence, or of delayed action can erode the carefully maintained image of integrity. And in such moments, decisions are no longer purely personal. They become strategic. There is a growing understanding that the monarchy must not only endure, but recalibrate, that preserving its future may require difficult choices in the present, choices that separate one era from another, not abruptly, but with deliberate intent. While one figure appears to be stepping back, another is unmistakably stepping forward, not through declaration, but through presence, through action, through an increasing assumption of responsibility that feels less like preparation and more like transition. Prince William and Catherine move with a composure that suggests readiness, not anticipation. Their appearances carry a different energy, assured, grounded, aligned with a modern expectation of leadership. It is not merely about visibility. It is about authority that feels natural, almost inevitable. Those within the institution have begun to adjust accordingly. Influence shifts quietly, loyalties realign subtly, and the center of gravity begins to move. Not announced, not formalized, but evident to those paying attention. This is how transitions often begin, not with a single moment, but with a gradual rebalancing, a recognition that the future is no longer approaching. It has already begun to take shape. The monarchy now stands at a crossroads defined not by ceremony, but by necessity. Tradition offers guidance, but not always solutions. The legal pathways are complex, the historical precedents cautionary, and the expectations of a modern public increasingly unforgiving. There are options: formal abdication, quiet delegation, a managed evolution that preserves dignity while acknowledging reality. Each carries consequences, not just for individuals, but for the institution as a whole. The decision is not simply about stepping down. It is about how history will remember the moment. Beyond the palace walls, the world is watching with a different lens than before. Economic pressures, social change, and shifting values have altered the relationship between the monarchy and the people it represents. What was once accepted without question is now examined, weighed, and often challenged. In that environment, the idea of a reset gains meaning, not as a rejection of the past, but as an adaptation for survival. The question is no longer whether change will come. It is whether it will come with intention, with grace, and with control. Because if history has taught anything, it is this: institutions that fail to evolve do not remain unchanged. They fade. And somewhere within the walls of the palace, that truth is already understood.